there, kids. It's me, Oni the Unicorn. And I'm here to tell you that f***ing your dreams ain't cheap. In fact, it costs a ton of cash to do. So that's why me and the Ohno radio show need your help. Just go to the website displayed below and hit us up with some cash, yo. $1, $5, fuck, $1 million if you have it to spare. Any amount is appreciated. Well, I gotta go because these dreams ain't gonna fuck themselves. See ya!
Welcome back to yet another edition of the Ohno Wrestling Podcast. I guess technically it's our 420 edition of the podcast, which is kind of ironic since our King of Bong Style could not make it tonight. And it is, of course, myself, Owen, your Sharp Break Kid, along with the former predictions champion, the modern day Maharaja, all the way from Denver right now. So again, appropriate for the 420 edition of the Ohno Wrestling Podcast. We welcome you to the show.
Made it back home just for that.
Just for that indeed.
Well, and I lost the title, so I had to start, I had to put my tail between my legs and run home. I couldn't go on this grandiose tour to the worst places in America.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's a good thing. Maybe, Duncan is now on that tour. We wish he could be here, but I think he had some family stuff come up, so we'll let him off. We'll let him off tonight. But hey, things happen. We all know it. Can't. As much as we'd love it to, our lives can't revolve completely solely with wrestling. And, it's ever increasingly that way, with literally wrestling being on every single night of the week now. Every single night, really. I mean,
it's intense.
It's intense. You can't keep up with everything. I've barely watched any of Raw from last night, mainly because it's been a pretty abysmal show in the last few months. I mean, you get the odd one here or there, but are you like me? It's not appointment viewing anymore for me, really.
No, it's not at all. The only time I watch it is when I'm on the road traveling and I end up in the hotel room and it's on in the background and I'm doing some work.
Got cable
but I don't even really watch it. I'm just kind of listening. Last night I'm finally home, but I didn't do that. So, it just didn't, and I've thought about it. I was like, Raw's on. And I was like, I gotta fucking pack. And I was like, I don't know. I threw some music on and was just like, I'm going to do that instead.
Sometimes it's better just to kind of get away from it for a while too, especially coming off of 2 weeks full really of the WrestleMania build up throughout Mania, throughout the shows afterwards. It's like, okay, maybe I'll just sit this one out, catch the highlights,
Yeah, it was kind of weird though, because on Sunday night I felt like I should be watching
something
like a pay-per-view. It was this looming. I was like, God, there's something I'm missing, some wrestling event, and I was like, no, it's not. That's next week is the Impact.
Yeah.
And I was like, but man, I had this feeling I was missing something. I think it's just because we have gotten into literally a sea of wrestling. It is
never ending. Speaking of, seas of wrestling, and I'll transition with seas of people. We're getting to the point now where things are slowly opening back up. We've got, I think they can run at this point full capacity at Daly's place, where they've obviously been shooting and doing a Dynamite for the past, since however long. But a question I wanted to ask you, and something I think that is interesting, because we spent so much time talking about the importance of that first match and the first people in front of a crowd when it came to Mania. Yes, AEW have had crowds, but I think that that's really going to come into effect when they go back out on the road, and possibly even their first pay-per-view, I would guess, on the road. And it might not be necessarily as dramatic as a return like with WWE at Mania, but I still think it's going to be important as to what that first match is going to be in front of a fully packed house in, an arena, outside of Daly's place. And I've got a couple of ideas as to, who I would expect to see in that role, but what are your thoughts on it?
So I think because they're able to do it at Daly's place, or they have the 100% or close to it, I guess, I feel like they'll build it to kind of let Dynamite start filling up. They'll make a big deal when it's back on the road, right? But they'll do the full live audience at Daly's. But I'm thinking that they won't go back on I feel like they might just be kind of like territorial almost for a second, like just stay kind of in the southeast, like that kind of area, not go too far. I'm thinking that I'm looking at their upcoming pay-per-views. So May, we have Double or Nothing. So the question is, do you move it? I guess it's already saying it's at Daly's place, but maybe after that you have Fyter Fest in June. Then it says July, Fight for the Fallen. So if you do that, you could either go to somewhere in another place in Florida, right? Kind of take it on the road, test the waters, that sort of thing. I think it's smart not to go too far too soon. Just technical wise, there's a lot of places breaking it down and moving it and shit every night,
right? They're gonna have to figure that all out again.
That's some ring rust.
It is. And it's not like there is a shortage of places that they could be going to in Florida. I mean, you've got your Fort Lauderdales, you've got your Tampas, Miamis, Orlando. Even they've not done it. They've not done a show in Orlando, and I constantly am just like, oh, how cool would that be if, just a kind of a fuck you to WWE, if they did their first big show back, or big pay-per-view in Orlando, is kind of just like I doubt it'll happen. Because,
but it'd be cool.
That it would be.
I mean, beyond that, I think, they could do, obviously there's Atlanta, and with Cody and stuff like that, that could make sense, depending on if he's going to have a match or something, which I'm sure he'll throw himself on somewhere.
Yep. He might even be that first one out. Like, he's definitely on that short list of people that would be That's ideal.
True. So I wonder if, because the first AEW Dynamite live show was in DC, I think, right?
That I couldn't tell you. I don't know.
I think the first Dynamite was in DC. So maybe that's a good one for them to go back to and start off on. And I'll check myself here in a second.
Yeah.
There, I think you
not
also
a bad
have
call.
You have Charlotte, you have, Nashville, you have a couple of places you could go that aren't too far. I think eventually they then are going to make a beeline for Chicago as soon as they feel comfortable enough.
It's kind of their weird, yes, Jacksonville is their spiritual home, but it would be their second spiritual home, sort of how WWE have the connections with MSG and New York, but then they also have the connections with here in Florida. I would almost say that AEW's New York at this point would be Chicago.
So I bet they do that in September for All Out.
That's might
the
be
big jump.
That's probably the first big pay-per-view in front of a fully attended audience. I would that would be a good way to do it. I'm still surprised that Blood and Guts has been kept as one of these specialty Dynamites, and not, because originally it was a pay-per-view. I'm almost certain they were going to make it a pay-per-view. And whilst I'm excited for that, like I think that's already scheduled to be at dailies too, if I'm not mistaken, because that's coming up in the next. I mean, I think that's here before we know it. It's
The Blood and Guts.
Yeah, it's before the next pay-per-view. It's before Double or Nothing.
And Double or Nothing's in May.
So yeah, it's got to be. I mean, end of May, I would assume, right? Because ours was the 25th, so it would probably be somewhere around that. So that's only a month away. So there's they're fitting in Blood and Guts in between those two, which is interesting.
Yeah. So it's what?
Or in between now and Double or Nothing, yeah.
May 5th.
Is
So that's coming up real quick.
That's Double or Nothing or Blood and Guts?
Blood and Guts.
Blood and Guts, okay, yeah.
So
that makes sense.
Yeah, and then AEW Double or Nothing was the 30th of May.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Was it the 30th? The last one, or this coming one? Because the one
month of May.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the one we went to was the 25th. And then they obviously did the one from Dailies, I guess you're saying was on the 30th.
Yep.
So it'd be around, it's somewhere in there. It's and that you said it's already been said to be at Dailies?
That's just what it's showing on Google. So they're saying Double or Nothing on May 30th at Dailies. And then Blood and Guts, when I just Googled it, there are a bunch of articles saying it was May 5th.
Right. So that time frame wise, it allows them to do some, maybe like you say, after Double or Nothing, do some more shows in dailies with full attendance, and then the following pay-per-view, which would be All Out.
Yeah, because they have those smaller ones, which are going to be Fyter Fest and
right.
But I think those will probably be a Dynamite.
I think they'll probably do that the same way, where there'll be those special Dynamite events like that they've been doing, kind of like what they're doing with Blood and Guts.
Exactly. So then September 5th, you have All Out, which that makes sense. I mean, you get through the summer.
Yeah.
You Fyter Fest and Fight for the Fallen. I mean, those weren't they all in Florida anyway? Not last year, but like the year before.
The year before they were as well.
It kind of sticks to the script. I don't know. That does make sense. Okay, so I did look this up, and October 2nd was when the first AEW Dynamite show was.
Right.
And it was at the Capital One Arena in Washington, D.C.
Gotcha. So yeah, they could do that, or they could do it prior.
They could do it.
I think they'll do it
I could see them doing Chicago. I could see them doing Fight for the Fallen, and the other one's around Florida, and that gets them kind of moving. And then they just slowly take it on the road all the way up to Chicago, maybe. Then they hit like Atlanta, like Birmingham, Nashville, like, Charlotte, like Raleigh, you know what I'm saying? Like go up, they can hit a bunch of things, hit DC, or they can go DC and then work around. But it seems to make sense, at least travel wise, to move up that way, then move into a little bit of the Midwest and then up into Chicago.
Who would you say that you would like? I mean, if it's not Cody, who's an obvious one, I think Cody's a little bit more divisive than he was though once upon a time. Like I think there's been a bit of backlash with Cody over the last few months, and kind of how like the developments with him have been. So I wonder if it's not him, who do they bring out for that first big pop? And I'll say, I think it's best friends with Orange Cassidy.
That's a really good pick.
I think that's who I would go with.
Part of me is thinking the Bucks, but they're just gonna get a big pop anyway.
Yeah, they're
so
now that they're heel, it's less likely to be the Bucks, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I kind of look at it from that. I also think that you could maybe go the direction. I'm kind of over him, but I still think he's very over. I think you could probably do Darby and have an TNT Open, challenge type thing with that. I think that might work. And then if you what if they brought in like an Andrade or a big name that was like a first time debut type thing? Yeah, that's a direction that they could go. and then have that person
So
win the
that's actually
TNT
a great
Championship.
direction marketing wise, because didn't they say recently that they weren't going to do a or like Jericho said it on a podcast or something like that, like when they had the Sting surprise, TNT was like, hey, you can't do that, like we want to announce. So imagine that. Okay, first AEW Dynamite on the road post COVID, right? Full crowd and huge special announcement at the top of the show,
right? Or just say a huge debut at the top of the show. You could even go that far if like TNT really does want, if they're cool enough without maybe promoting the actual name of the person, because we all like those surprises. I hope they don't take that away from them. I understand why they want to be able to market that for better numbers and what have you, but realistically, like, that's part of wrestling. You can't do that all the time. You've got to have those shock entrances, surprises, all that stuff. So if they were to just kind of, frame it as just a new not superstar, but a new wrestler coming to AEW, something in that, guys, you can maybe get away with it that way.
Give me 90 days, take it on the road, make it Samoa Joe.
Gosh. I mean, okay, here's the thing with that, and that leads us to obviously some of the more grim news that happened over, this last, well, since we did the last show. I think it was last Wednesday, right?
Yeah.
It was the day after we did our last show, I want to say it was.
Yep.
Yeah. So another Black Wednesday or whatever you want to call it, but the annual tradition now, I guess, of WWE releasing wrestlers directly after WrestleMania, which... And
after
people,
Samoa Joe stood in the rain in a poncho
and
had to listen to WrestleRania
and killed it on commentary and has been killing it on commentary. That's one of the big, like, show was a shocker to me, and I understand it in a, like, some other ones were, I think, more surprising to me, but Joe was a shocker just in what he can, even if he's not ring capable right now, even if he can't wrestle, what he can bring to the table outside of that is equally, if not more important than him being a main event guy. And I think that what he could do, obviously, for younger talent, helping them backstage, helping them, as an agent, or just even on commentary, we've seen, like, what he can do on commentary. We all know that he can talk. He would make an incredible sort of enforcer type manager as well that you could utilize if you wanted to go that route. I personally don't see Joe going to AEW. And I think that it's because they are already a little bit bloated, and although there's so many dream matches and there's so many things that would work there, I just have a weird suspicion that he either goes to Ring of Honor based on his history there, or more than likely, I think he goes back to Impact and ends his career where he had such a monumental run in Impact once upon a time. I can firmly, with what AEW is doing now, with Impact as well, you have Joe go in, and he's one that can maybe even have a match with Kenny Omega.
Well, he's the one who maybe brings the belt
back home. Bingo, bango, bongo. Here we go. Because it fits so many of, like, he's a TNA boy. It fits so many of those, like, criteria that I don't know. To me, that's just sort of that dream story.
I think it's an amazing story, right? And I think you also could then get away with also getting some of those dream matches that you want in AEW, because there is this little bit of crossover. So depending on how that goes, even if he, let's say in perfect booking, perfect world, he wins the title, right, from Omega, that could then, open up. There are a couple top contenders in AEW that want to come take that Impact title, or someone who has an alliance with Kenny at that time or something like that who wants to go after him. So you could have that. And the one match that, like, one of the matches that I really would want to see with somebody in AEW for some reason with Joe is him and Kingston. Because I think they're both good on the mic. Their style, I think it would go pretty well.
Complement
I would
each
also
other.
like to see like him and Taz go face to face in the ring in a
Yeah.
verbal altercation. I think that would be great.
I like both of those. I think too, like back to like your like that scenario that Joe is the one that is able to take the Impact belt back home, also then winning the AEW championship. Just say if, then you can have, and some people will be slightly disappointed in this, but I don't think I would, because it's almost too predictable at this point, is what they've done with Hangman. But you can have Hangman be the company guy for AEW that can bring back the AEW championship back to AEW, therefore then setting up the Kenny Hangman match after that, maybe even possibly resulting in Kenny's second run with the title, and maybe even a new version of Kenny. But like having like that AEW guy, because at the moment, who would you say is like the quintessential AEW guy? And you can't really, if you're going with the logic, you wouldn't really want to choose a heel, which of course you've got the Bucks and Kenny. I mean, Cody obviously is in there, but he's not. He's already said he's he's not going for the AEW main title. So Hangman Page would be the next one on that list for me.
Yeah, Hangman's the next on the list,
because not a lot of people know him from Japan or the indies, or didn't, and he's almost seen, I think, as a little bit of a homegrown AEW star. Like that's
yeah, and it'll be time to put it on somebody who's more of a homegrown star at that point, as opposed to someone
the Jerichos and Moxleys,
the Jericho, the Moxley, the Omega, the people who have held championships in other promotions and were huge big names prior to AEW. You know, I mean, Hangman, for as great as he is and the clout that he has now, he doesn't have that like longevity clout because he's just not that old. No. He hasn't been around as long. So this is the perfect opportunity. It also then kind of puts him in that level and puts him on that trajectory, which I think he deserves. Again, yeah, you said Cody isn't going to go after it. I don't think that he would, like, it would just be everyone would hate that, I think, if he ended up doing that. It just doesn't work.
It doesn't work
even
either.
if he didn't have that stipulation and didn't say that.
Although I think he could have a great match with Joe.
Yeah, I think he could have a great match with Joe too. Yeah, there'd be good spots on both sides. It would be solid. It would be strong. It would be hard. Like with both of them. I think that would be a good match. I think the Eddie Kingston one I'd really like to see.
I do like that.
I'd really like to see. Gosh, who else? There was someone else that I was thinking. I was like, man, I would really like to see that match
with Joe and AEW, like an AEW guy.
Yeah, someone with Joe and I mean, now I'm just not.
Fucking Moxley would work too.
Moxley would be great.
You could easily do that.
That would be good. I mean, even Joe and Hangman would be great.
Sure. Yeah. I feel like there's not many of the top guys in AEW at the moment that Joe couldn't have a good match with. So whatever you really go with, it's going to probably work. That being said, that's Joe off the list. These now are the ones that I was the most personally surprised with. And it starts with the Iconics. Of course, Peyton Royce, Billy Kay. No longer with the WWE. Foolish in the first place to ever split them up. I think we can all agree there. And second, it was so bizarre because it seemed, and all the rumors were pointing, that Vince was really hot on Peyton Royce, and that was the reason that he was, they separated the duo to begin with. Then it seemed, of course, like, man, Billy Kay was making it work. She wasn't given much, and she was doing a lot with what she was given. So, and then to have her in such a prominent role in that whole tag team turmoil deal at Mania, to then turn around and be let go, just the following, in the few days later. That was, I think, the most surprising to me. It's like, why would you even put that person on the card in such a prominent position, knowing that you're gonna cut them? Which
makes me think how, like,
Do they
When do
even
you think
know?
these
Do they
decisions
know
were
at that
made?
point exactly, or did they just make them the next day after
Yeah,
Mania?
was there like, this is how much we need to cut from the budget if they're stating budget cuts, right? Were they just looking at like who gets paid, and then like eventually they're like, these people, and it's like,
Okay.
Joe is hosting, she's on the show, like,
and she
doesn't
was
really
probably
make a lot of sense.
no, it doesn't. It doesn't at all. I'll say though that they should get them back together. They should sign as a tag team, and they should sign as a tag team in Impact Wrestling because of their Knockouts division being what it is. Also,
Yep.
Knockouts division lost a lot of stars recently. A lot of people moved on, be it the Taya Valkyries, be it, of course, not having Tessa Blanchard anymore. They could use a bit of fresh air in there. I also think their brand of comedy works a little better on a show like that. I hate to say it, a little bit more cheesy of a show than AEW is.
I think it works perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, as much as the AEW women's division needs a little bit of love, gotten a lot better, but still needs a little bit of love. I think that for some reason, Impact, would be the correct place for the Iconics to go. And they've just reintroduced the women's tag team championships not too long ago. So it's a decent fit.
Yep. I think it's a perfect fit. I mean, you got the knockout tag titles.
Yep.
And that division is already established as one of the best women divisions. Like you said, they've lost people. This could boost them while allowing them to work together and separately. They could still be a tag team, and they could have singles matches. Their personalities, you hit the nail on the head, work. And I think, I just don't see them working in AEW. And I think for the women's side of things, if there is someone from this list, like I think Chelsea Green
is the one that goes to AEW.
And then
absolutely. She was the next one in line for me that was the surprise. She had a real bad run, man. Like not her fault either. She got injured a couple of times, and it's her stupid wrist or something, right? It's like a constant it's like a constant worry. So if she can get a battle that, I think she would be a perfect addition to the AEW women's division. I also see that right now you've got your Statlanders, you've got your Britt Bakers who are doing comedic stuff on AEW quite well, but you need a little bit more legitimacy than the Iconics would bring, per se. Like they would be like the wrong direction. They would almost be taking the piss out of the women's division at that point in AEW. Whereas the Chelsea Green, who is an established, very good performer, also has a history being at All In, if I'm not mistaken, right? She was at All In.
She has a history at All In. She's also had a really good run in Impact already, so she doesn't really need to do that again.
Correct.
So it makes sense for her to kind of go to AEW, kind of help stack that women's division with more of what they need. And she was a part of All In. So, I mean, it's kind of
and obviously Zack Ryder and Cody are buddies. So, and Chelsea Green, are they engaged, married? I don't know what they are, but
I don't know what they are,
but we know they're together at whatever, so that works. You could also then make the point too, if you wanted to, and you did maybe want to split the Iconics. You could have Peyton Royce maybe be a more serious character in AEW based upon the Shawn Spears side of things, and they're together. But then it looks like nepotism, and I think AEW's been accused of that too much. I mean, rightly so in a lot of ways. They've been accused of kind of leaning into that a little bit too much, so they might be a little hesitant to do that. And again, still not probably the correct fit, and Impact being a better one.
And I think I don't know, hopefully anyone who would be trying to book them separately looks at what happened when they were separated in AEW. I mean, not AEW, WWE, and just that, I mean, it just wasn't the same. I think Impact is the perfect place, like you were saying. I mean, just the knockouts division, but then I really think they could start separating those personalities. Right now, they're not totally separate. WWE did kind of an okay job with allowing it, but like not really. So I think you kind of have to like let it happen more organically, and not as opposed to just separate. Like let them be a tag team and be the Iconics, and then
have singles matches
and let them and single matches and start showcasing other things where then eventually you could do a breakup where it's they break
Peyton,
up.
Maybe you have Peyton. Yeah, maybe you have Peyton become a little bit more serious and maybe start getting a little tired of Billie Kay's antics because she's always more the goofball and all that. Like, hey, get it together. A question from the chat room here. What if they rebuilt the Iconics as a hardened tag team / kick-ass type of team? I don't know that they're there yet. I don't know that their ring work justifies that. I think that would be a hard sell. That's maybe something you can do down the road, but I don't think that reemerging in a new company at the moment, I think viewers would have a pretty hard time accepting a completely rebranded version of the Iconics, like coming out in leather jackets and being tough chicks or something. We're not gonna buy that because the last time that we saw them, Billie Kay was fucking trying to get people to look at her resume. You know what I mean? Like in her headshot. Like you gotta still sort of play into what they were, but maybe in the future that's something that they can be. So I don't hate it completely, but not right now.
Did they pull a red herring? Did they have this planned, actually? Maybe it wasn't last minute, and they wrote it into the storyline. They're like, you're going to need your resume and some headshots. We're kind of telling you, like, this is coming.
There's
like,
no
you're
way
shop around.
There's no way they're that smart. If they were that smart, we wouldn't be looking at some of the atrocious storylines that we have, all over the place.
But I think that, to the point, I mean, that if you were to be bold as fuck and do that move, now is you could try again. To your point, I don't think it would be as well received. I think you could have them come in with a little more of a chip on their shoulder and have a little more edge. But they still have to be the Iconics. Like they have to be like, kind of like, hey, we came back here. Like they could always allude to like the release or something like that. But like we ended up here and like we don't, like they could have this like holier than thou, like bitchy, like chip on their shoulder, like I don't want to be here but I'm here, and like kind of talk shit but still do their antics and stuff. And I think that then starts building that like that persona of like hardened. That's the way to do it. It's like sprinkle it in there. But I also don't think that they're both good enough on the mic and as characters to just fully put them as like hard badass chicks that they could just come out and consistently do that.
Don't put it past Billie Kay though, because again, she's been able to do wonders with what she's been given, and her character work has been some of the best stuff on WWE's like character development side. Like, so again, a real strange one for the release. Now for, I guess, some of the ones that were not so surprised. Did they just realize, because I'm sure you saw that there was a lot of stuff going around that people thought that perhaps the new Fiend that appeared at WrestleMania,
it was Bo Dallas.
That was Bo Dallas. Did they just realize after seeing some of that internet shit and the Twitter hype that oh shit, Bo is still hired? Like we forgot that he was even part of the company.
They're like, yeah, what's the number? Yep, that meets the budget. Get him out.
Gosh, I feel terrible for Bo. It's not surprising. We haven't seen him in, I want to say, over a year on TV. Like a real long time. I'd like to see him go do some stuff on the real indies. And I think that he should go and rebuild the Rotunda name. And I think he should go under his I don't know if it's Bo, I don't know his real name. I just know he's a Rotunda. But if he was whatever his first name is, Rotunda, you could absolutely use that to, to kind of separate the Bray Wyatt side of things, separate him from his brother, because he's constantly, sometimes to a fault, compared to Bray. And there's been the clamoring of people that, they should team him up, and I think I would have liked that, but let's not forget the legacy that the Rotundas sort of have and what you can do there. Like, I think you build him up as a kind of a more sinister version of his character with under the Rotunda and kind of like a ring general type of guy. I think because he has the skill set to do it. And if he wants to, here's the thing. I know he's getting his real estate license or some shit. I remember reading way back. I want to say he's with Liv Morgan or someone like that you wouldn't expect. Yeah, I want to say he's like in one of those things. But yeah, like I don't know that. Again, I don't know that there's a place for him right away in AEW or Impact. But have him go do some indies. Have him go do some, maybe not even New Japan, but like have him do some stuff in Japan. Build up Bo's credibility enough because it's been broken down so much over the years. Build him up to a point where then he can come in as, say, a mid-carder in an AEW or you know, give him the Drew, if you will, you know, like have him go away for a while, have him do a bunch of stuff, build up that credibility to maybe come back to the WWE later down the road. That's what I would do with Bo. What did you find his real name?
Taylor
Rotunda.
Yeah,
that works as a wrestling name. I don't hate it.
I don't hate it either. It does work as a wrestling name. Also, are Liv Morgan and Bo Dallas dating? I typed in Bo Dallas girlfriend.
Not Liv.
This one says, which pretty much, you know, we'll confirm it because we're like AEW. We confirm things.
Yeah.
Ohno confirmed. Ohno Wrestling confirmed. It says it's currently unclear whether Liv Morgan and Bo Dallas are dating. But according to Wrestling News, Liv and Bo are currently living together on a farm.
Yeah,
so
in like Tennessee or something.
That, like they have, like she has going on, like you do.
Yep.
And you know, how many people do you have living at your house other than your wife?
I don't want to tell you.
You know. Are they outside in tents?
I've got a secret basement in Florida.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's a whole thing.
But yeah, so I just think that's kind of funny that it's like, yeah, they live on a farm together. I don't know, are they dating or not? It's like probably, like 100% probably. But who cares? Moving on. Taylor Rotunda is not a bad name. I could see him going to like NWA.
Yeah, you know, that's actually a really good fit because I think of the connections with the Rotundas to NWA from the past. That's not a bad one at all. Chat room asks, do you believe he could do ROH? I actually do. I think that he could do ROH. I think that might actually be a decent fit for him.
I think it'd be a decent fit for him. I mean, he is fairly good on the mic.
He's better than he's given credit for. I like his kind of. He's got a weird sounding voice. It's like that raspy kind of like. I don't know how to do. I couldn't do an impression of it, but you know what I mean. It's like a weird. I like his cadence, and I think that
there it is, the cadence.
With that cadence, I think that you can do some interesting character work with it. Like that's why the Bo Leave thing sort of worked. That's and even with the what was that group that they did the B Team?
Oh yeah, the B Team.
Right,
I forgot about the B Team.
Yeah. How could you? How
could I?
Yeah. Even when he was doing that stuff, it worked. So no, I don't know about with him being gone. Does that piss off Bray? Another question from the chat. I don't know about that. I feel like they're pros. They understand.
Yeah,
they understand what's going on in that situation. And Bray is. They're probably Bo and Bray are probably happy because now he's able to go out there and do something. Actually, go do something if he wants to do it. So you know, when you're not being utilized. In some of these cases, like, yeah, it sucks for Joe, who was on TV every week and getting that money. But when you're not being utilized, like, yes, you have a guaranteed contract with WWE for a certain amount, but they get more money when they're on TV. And when they're not on TV for a length of time that Bo wasn't, they're making considerably less money. So he probably has a chance now to go make more and to be more successful in the industry.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why I think NWA, I think he can really thrive there, really create a like name for himself.
Yeah,
be showcased on the mic and in the ring. I think Ring of Honor, I think he could do that too. I just, for some reason, his style, his just everything about him, and I guess
he'd have to be a bit more gritty. He'd have to be a bit more gritty, a little bit. You know, less goofy to go do the Ring of Honor.
I'm not saying that he could,
but I think he could do it.
I think he could. That's the thing. it's between the two. I mean, I don't see him going to a New Japan. I don't see him going to an AEW. I don't see him going to an Impact. I think NWA and Ring of Honor are the
good.
two. NWA, in my mind, is the one that makes the most sense.
I like it. I like that a lot. The other one that I think that NWA makes a lot of sense for is someone like a Mickie James, who was released.
Come on.
Married to Nick Aldis. You could do a lot. I mean, I'm sure she's one of those that would be another great backstage coach for any organization. That being said, she could easily do the Impact thing, has history there, been there before, with a kind of a reestablishing of the Knockouts division, with them bringing new people in. She might be a good person behind the scenes to help that younger talent. Also, I think she's still like Mickie James still has a lot to offer inside the ring too. Like she's probably better than half the performers on the roster currently on the main roster of WWE. Well, I wouldn't go that far, but she still could hold her own against. Like she looks better than a Liv Morgan, or she looks like honestly I think she's better in the ring than Mandy Rose, or some of the. I mean, we won't mention some of the others, Nia Jax. But yes, it's an NWA or an Impact for me if she wants to keep going. She thinks she probably still has another few years in her.
I think she has another few years in her. I could see either of those. The NWA one almost seems too perfect because of Nick.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, she could be booked on her own, have no relation, or, you know, maybe they don't talk about it. Or I could see her coming on almost in a like Miss Elizabeth role that actually still wrestles and like backs up
valet type thing for Aldis, like
for Aldis, who like still wrestles, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, he would have to have a completely new kind of storyline. I don't think he needs that though. I'm just trying to kind of like fit her in like different areas because she could be good at coaching, but she does still have a few years in her, but maybe that actually helps because she can actually work with some of the younger talent in the ring and help develop them on camera as opposed to just behind the scenes. So maybe she comes in as like a coach trainer / and she
performer.
Has a deal for a certain number of matches a year or something like that, where she will probably go after something or put some girls over and give them
to the credit to further add credence to the NWA thing. I think because of their styles and probably their interaction in the past and their statuses as almost like veterans, her and Serena Deeb in NWA would be a good match.
That would be a good match.
I feel like you could make a good storyline out of that, and that would make a lot of sense for me. Moving on.
That would make a lot of sense, actually, yeah.
What about Mojo Rawley? Does Mojo ever wrestle again?
I don't know if he wrestles or not.
I kind of feel bad for him too, honestly. Like, he wasn't given much, and I think he was really trying to do something different with his Luna Vachon makeup and broken mirror thing, and then they abandoned that, and it's just always very. They never knew what to do with him, and then once Gronk left, that see you later, Mojo. We've got nothing for you.
But I don't know. I mean, dude, I actually, out of all of them, I think he'd do all right in Impact. Yeah. I think because they like over the top characters.
They do.
And so he doesn't need to change his character or anything. He can just come in and actually.
He can just be the hype bro. Just call him the hype bro.
He can be the hype bro. Right. He can be the hype bro.
Or just call him Mojo Hype.
Yeah, exactly.
You're done.
Hype
right.
Mo, whatever.
Right, yeah.
And just let him fucking do his thing. And I don't think it would be bad. I just don't. It just seems like that would be the right fit just for his character.
Mojo has just to respond to the chat room real quick. Mojo has no business in AEW. He has business in TNA Impact, but he's no business in AEW. Or he's not going to New Japan and having 5-star bangers with Okada. It's not.
You don't think so?
No, I don't. I mean, maybe I'm wrong.
Japan needs the hype man.
Maybe. It was. Am I missing anybody? I feel like I'm missing. Tucker. We're missing Tucker.
Yeah. And then also, where was my list? Hold on, I had it pulled up.
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Kalisto.
He'll go do some shit on the indies and AAA, and he'll be
AAA, or I could see him doing New Japan, depending on how things are.
I could see
opening
that too.
up.
I could absolutely see that.
If he did AAA, that could at least give us some of the matches that we want when there's some crossover with AEW. Because I'd love to see him and Ray Phoenix, something like that. But I don't think he has to go to AEW. He could do some indies and do some work there. But New Japan seems like it could be a good place.
I feel like AEW has enough of that style of wrestler at the moment as well that they don't really need, they like keeping it diverse, and too much flippy shit is probably not the way to go. Let's have it be a nice mixture of things. They've got plenty of talent that can do those crazy style of matches. New Japan sort of works. Yeah, New Japan works for that. New Japan, AAA, CMLL, you can and throw them around the indies. Tucker is a sad one because I feel like he was just getting a grasp on his character, on what they wanted to do with him. They should have never probably split up Heavy Machinery. That was, I think, a mistake. Again, just like the Iconics. Tucker's not going, again, another one, probably not going to New Japan, having huge matches, or coming to AEW.
I think NWA.
Another NWA. They like their bigger hosses, too, in NWA.
Yep.
It's
hard-hitting,
old school style. He's a very agile guy, too, for his size. So I can see them. I can see him having a career outside of WWE, and I think he might be one of those weirder, bigger surprises as well. Because he's so I don't want to call him a rookie because that sounds, I don't want to be, derogatory to the guy, but he was just getting started in the industry really as a whole. So we don't I feel like he's got a lot still to learn, and he would probably say that himself. But he also is a guy that, because he's so new, there might be that potential for a lot of growth in the future. And I could see him in Impact as well. I could see them doing something with him in Impact, but NWA again, I think is probably a good shout.
It seems like a good fit if he's going anywhere other than just straight indies.
Yeah. Did I miss any? Did we miss any?
The other one was your favorite and most well known, which is why you're forgetting him, because you probably think about him all the time.
True.
Wesley Blake.
Oh, all the time. Yeah, he was definitely one of.
Did you just take the poster down of him? And the
yeah.
I was usually in the back corner there.
I'll say this: when Blake and Murphy were a thing, they were pretty good. They were a decent tag team, and let's not forget that's where we got Alexa Bliss.
Yeah,
Alexa Bliss was their valet.
That's true.
So it's like another one. We would never have guessed that Carmelo would have come out of the Enzo and Cass situation as the one that was still there, being the best one. Alexa Bliss kind of in that same thing. I think Murphy's always been the better of the two, but I kind of think that here's what's weird about the whole thing with Wesley Blake is that they had started that Forgotten Sons thing. Then there was the whole controversy.
Yep.
Then the one guy, Jackson Riker, that started the controversy is the only one that's still there.
It's still there.
So you had to
crazy.
You had to break them up, do different shit, kind of divert, change of plans with that whole thing. But then I forgot the other guy's name. Obviously Wesley Blake's gone, but the guy that they released before that,
Steve Cutler.
Steve Cutler, yeah. Very bizarre it's Jackson Riker. I will say though that Jackson Riker, he looks the part. He's got a really good physique, and he
does look the part.
He looks
and
the
that's
part.
probably Vince is probably very high on that. The fact that he looks the part. But, I don't know. I mean, I think we've talked about it a couple of times on this show, and I mean in the past, but definitely on the show. WWE is not having a great track record for breaking up tag teams recently. So they probably need to, I don't know, take heed and just kind of stop that.
Maybe even just try and form a goddamn tag division would be a start with that. Like
that would be.
That would probably help, is that if they gave any two shits about tag team wrestling.
Do you think
that
joke. Still has to go with like Vince's attitude? Like, you think we're still seeing that? Like, he doesn't like tag teams.
It must be. It must be, and it's such an underutilized thing, especially in WWE, that and look too at one of the biggest merch sellers over the last decade is a tag team. Well, I mean, New Day. I mean, is who I'm talking about, but like, I guess technically, like, they're a trio.
Had the tag titles,
but they're
you gotta call them a tag team.
They're a tag team. I mean, let's be real, and they always did the Freebird rule anyway.
Yeah.
I like this question from the chat room. Do either of you see anyone giving Big Cass another shot? I recently listened to an interview with him with Chris Van Vliet, and shout out to him. He's actually a really good interviewer. Too nice for my liking. He's too goddamn Canadian. But apart from that, it was a good interview. He was talking about, his struggles with alcohol and his whole rehab situation. And guy does seem like he is on a very good road to recovery, but he is very aware that he is a liability and that it's going to take a long time for him to get that shot. I think someone will eventually, if he keeps it up and he proves himself to, like, it takes time. It's sort of like with Kurt Angle back in the day. WWE didn't want to touch him with a 10-foot pole. Like, after what they had dealt with and what, he was going through, like, during his time in TNA and Impact and all that. But Kurt Angle got there, and they gave him another chance, right? I think Cass has a lot of unfinished business for himself. So I think he's going to keep doing his best to get to a level somewhere. I've always said that the Impact would be perfect for Big Cass. I think we'll see him on that stage, and he has a relationship now with Doc Gallows, currently signed by Impact. I believe that there's even been reports that that Gallows has put in, like, kind of a good word for him over at Impact. So that's my guess. Like, if someone's going to give him a shot, but I wouldn't be surprised if he got his shit together for long enough that WWE would give him another chance.
Or he ended up in Ring of Honor.
I don't know about Enzo, though.
No, I don't think Enzo.
I don't think Enzo.
So when you were just talking, that's when you're saying, like, he's going to keep plugging away. You
right.
know, and that's what I was, like, going to bring up. He can do that, and I think that helps. So then the question is, how does he separate himself? Because he is doing stuff on the indies with Enzo right now, right? Like, not all the time, but, like, he is. But, like, I think overall in the end, that might eventually hurt him. If he's trying to actually do something for himself, I think
agree.
That might hurt him.
And honestly, Enzo was able to kind of get, I think, he never got convicted of anything. I'm sure.
I'll convict him of making shitty-ass rap music.
Right. But realistically, one of the big reasons that no one's come clamoring for Enzo is that, let's just be real, he's never been good in the ring. Like, he's never been good in the ring. Passable at best. So, but I do weirdly think that if you were this Friday night, if you had Enzo and Cass come back out and do the shtick, it would pop a crowd like nothing else. I think it would. I think it would actually work. You have to have a live crowd for it. There, you can't do that Thunderdome. But I think if you had a live crowd, I think you can absolutely bring them back tomorrow, and they would get the pop. I don't know if it's worth it for, obvious reasons, but they would still get the pop. And I'll be honest, I'd be a little bit for it. I'd be a little bit for it.
Yeah. And if both of them, maybe they both fizzle out, or maybe Big Cass gets a run, which, I think I'd like to see. Enzo, I wouldn't. I think eventually they end up on a Legends night.
I think so too.
For people like us who knew where they came from and everything, and they will show up when they're older and like aren't wrestling, and they will do their spiel.
Or you just have Enzo be a manager for this monster Cass, like, because he's in such better shape now. He's jacked, like he's in a lot better shape. He's still a tall son of a bitch. You bring him back and you have Enzo be a manager that can take a bump for Cass every once in a while, and he's the sneaky little asshole that we all know he is.
Yeah.
Don't need to see Enzo every week in the ring again, but the dude has the charisma. He does. He does,
but I think that gives us then, like, I could then see that as like a Ring of Honor thing, because what was that when they showed up at that pay-per-view?
That was at the New York Madison Square Garden. Was it that the dual show that they did with New Japan at Madison Square Garden?
I think that's what it was. Yeah, and they showed up, and that whole thing. So I also see that connection. I see the Gallows connection, and I've read that and heard that too. That like he's put in the good word, which I think that would make sense for him. But I could also see a Ring of Honor thing at a certain point. But again, I think he, to his point, has to prove himself.
Yep, and he might get there. I disagree with this one though. Chat room saying Cass was about as good in the ring as Khali was. Come on, man. Yeah, Cass wasn't a 5-star worker, but he was better in the ring than Khali. Yeah. Like, that's being a little unfair. Like, Khali could barely move. Like, he could barely move. Khali played a role that needed to be played. Like, there is a role and room for the monster that can barely move in wrestling. Yeah. But come on. That's a little bit much. That's
I don't think Cass was ever really given the green light to like put like his foot on the gas in the ring.
Remember?
Like, and so I think that
they tried a weird push for him at one point after they
did.
Like they were trying to get him into that main title picture. It was I feel like it was some tournament. Like it's so long ago now. It's like my mind. But he got.
I forget what it was, but there was a little bit of a push.
It was like they were, and then I think what doomed him, and I also believe that it might have been due at this time. Like he probably wasn't in the best mental health, but there was a promo that he gave. It was the first time, or close to the first time, that he gave a promo without Enzo, like a pretty damn good mouthpiece, and he looked terrified. Like he was.
I think
remember
that.
He was kind of like shaking, and like you could hear the quiver in his voice, and he was just out of his element beyond belief, and that was the kind of the beginning of the end. Again, it probably had something to do that he wasn't in the best personal, mental, or physical health at the time. And you can see his body too when he's going through that. If you look at it, Cass in NXT was a different animal than Cass on the main roster.
Yeah,
like
he really was.
He got sloppy looking. Like he really.
Yeah, he was like bloated.
Yeah,
buff.
Alcohol
right?
bloat.
Yeah.
And hell, that probably had something to do with the whole thing. I mean, and in the interview that I talked about earlier, he does go on to say that, oh yeah, I knew I was getting fired. Like I knew when I got, like, before the phone call happened, that it was over. Like it and I had only myself to blame, and he. I at least give him some, credit for that, and mad credit for trying to get his life on track, which he sounds like he's doing. I think he's another one of these DDP yoga projects as well.
I think he is too, and I think that, I don't know, at least him talking about it and taking responsibility for it, that's something that addicts don't do, is take responsibility and hold themselves accountable. So when people do start going through rehabilitation, at least in my experience and knowing people very close to me who've done it, like they have to take accountability and like they have to talk about it and they have to be open about it and open with themselves. It seems like that's what he's doing. And that doesn't seem like a shtick. It seems like he knows he fucked up.
Yep.
Knows that like this wasn't a good thing. He wants to do better and wants to be better, and he knows he can. And I think that that's, you know, I mean, anyone who wants to and can do better, we all fucking slip and fall, you know, all in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think he needs to be fully penalized for life because of that, because he's taking control of it and he's admitting to it. And it's not something like a Me Too, you know, that type of thing. It's like, I did this. It was myself that I hurt.
Yeah,
and
he could have
fucked up.
He could have never said a word about it if he didn't want to, and just kind of brushed it off and moved on and just, hey, I'm just trying to move forward or whatever. But he's been super open, and that's respectable. That's very respectable.
It's very respectable, yeah.
I want to ask you about your thoughts on the new commentary teams on both Raw and SmackDown.
I knew this was coming.
Yes. We'll start with Raw.
All right.
I've already forgotten his name. It's like a Dean, a need, or help me out. Can you help?
It's here. I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah. But apart from him on the show, wasn't it? It was Corey Graves on Raw now.
Corey Graves got moved.
Byron again. Byron Saxton, right?
Yep.
And the new guy replacing Samoa Joe, by the way. So fuck this guy.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay. So, Adnan. Oh, which we should all know if you ever listen to the first Serial podcast.
Oh, yeah.
But don't do that. Go back and listen to all the Ohnos. Much more intriguing. MLB Network is where he came from. So
baseball
Major League
commentator.
Baseball, Adnan Virk.
And boy, did he sound like a baseball fucking commentator to me. Like, I appreciate when professional wrestling is presented a little bit more like a traditional sport. I'm not going to argue that, but this guy was too much. I did not like his flow. It's been a week, so you know it's going to take him time. Not the biggest fan. What about you?
I didn't watch.
Not even like a clip or you haven't even heard his.
I didn't watch a clip.
His voice is nerdy too.
Well, I guess the clip I watched was T-Bar and Mace. I watched like those 3 minutes. It was like a 3-minute clip and it was cut up, so I don't know if I actually heard him or I was just I was skipping around to kind of see what was happening just to get through it. So I don't know. I will have to go back and listen, but it's Corey Graves and Byron Saxton. Yeah.
Not the biggest fan of him. I'm hoping that he gets better. And realistically, if he doesn't, Tom Phillips is still employed by the company. They can still.
I think they're saying he might do 205 Live.
Is that? Yeah. But man, what a downgrade for him. I thought he was doing. Yeah. I thought he was actually doing a pretty good job, Tom Phillips.
I thought he was doing a pretty good job too.
You know, he's kind of mini Michael Cole, but that role isn't easy. Like it's a tough role, and we give Michael Cole a lot of shit, but I think he's actually pretty damn good at his job, and I know he can think on the fly, and he's just like, for a corporate wrestling company like WWE, he's perfect. Like there is,
and the guy has only missed I think it was 2 shows in the past decade or 20
ridiculous.
Years or whatever.
It's ridiculous. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's like 2, and it was
workaholic.
Major family fucking emergency.
Exactly.
Someone passed away in his immediate family. Other than that, he is fucking there. I will say SmackDown. I did watch most of SmackDown.
Pat McAfee making his return, and nice to see just a 2-man booth with him and Michael Cole. Yep. I think Michael Cole, just like we were just saying, is probably the perfect person to ease Pat McAfee into the role. You know,
I think it's perfect because I've read at least, they're going to allow him to kind of be himself.
Yep.
And
less people in his ear, less Vince screaming at him to do whatever.
Yeah, but I think Michael Cole's going to be that person in his ear.
Yes.
Like you're saying, like he'll guide him. He's going to like mold him, I think is what we're going to see. Because listening to him on SmackDown when I was watching, there was a lot of, and this is my first time seeing this up close, and blah, blah. And like, perfect. That's playing into it.
Yep.
I like it. He didn't do a horrible job.
I don't think he did a horrible job.
The things he didn't know, he's like, Michael Cole, what was that again? Like, it was.
I like that though, because it's using his own personality. It's bringing a sense, like, even though if you don't know, it's bringing a bit of realism in,
Exactly. So I will say I did enjoy that. Like, it's like there was something in the Sammy KO match that happened. He was like, I've never seen that before. Michael Cole, and he's like, oh, it was this, and he's like, what was that again? Say that again. He's like, what was that move? Like,
which is good, because sometimes we as viewers want a bit of that clarification, and I think WWE has done a pretty piss poor job over the last, I'd say, decade of calling moves play-by-play style, like, especially with your more sports-oriented performers, like your Riddles, your guys that come from UFC, like your Rouseys, your even like your Shinsuke's, right? Oh, a kick to that. Like it's like it. I get really annoyed when I'm sure this kick or knee or what have you has a more descriptive term to it. But then they stopped calling things like superplexes, or they'll stop like weird little things, like they don't call like they used to in when I was growing up, and oh my God, like what an amazing German suplex. Sometimes they'll just get lazy and just call it a suplex. Like it's
a lot of the time it's a suplex.
Right. So things like that. I think if you have a guy like McAfee that doesn't know everybody's move set and everybody, like having a guy kind of like force the play-by-play to repeat it, probably is going to end up making them call those moves more correctly than they have been.
And agreed. And I think it's a good move for also like younger viewers who might not know.
Yes.
Like again, we don't know everything. Like you said, it would be great to have some of that in our regard. But imagine on Friday Night SmackDown, you have a bunch of kids. So now you got like a younger guy, not just Michael Cole and Corey Graves, and like I don't know. It just seems like he's like
teach him what a Snapdragon is.
Yeah, he get a little bit of a younger generation that can. Help guide the even younger generation to look up to. And then you still have Michael Cole in that I think it's a smart move.
He is, because he has a real big outreach to big sports fans, NFL fans. Not particularly my scene, but I know the guy is quite, popular. And on top of that, the guy can actually go in the ring, which we've seen in NXT. So I want to believe that he will have a match on the main roster, and it's in the relatively near future. It might be 6 months from now, it might be a year from now, but something will happen. Maybe it's when Adam Cole gets brought up to the main roster or something, and you repeat that on a main roster ring with Adam Cole and Pat McAfee. I could easily see him doing that.
What if Joe gets pissed, he wasn't really let go, comes back and beats him up for the title? I mean, for his
job to bring. Yeah. Hey, if it brings Joe back, I'm cool. Cool.
That would be. What if that was a big swerve where they said they released?
I don't think they don't do that though. They don't fuck around with release.
They did it with the one. Who was the one
Drake
person?
Maverick was the last, but I think that they had actually planned that was real, and then they just saw like how much
they saw him crying,
the public outcry of it, and like they saw his
they're like, no one has ever actually gone on social media and
cried. So all right, we'll give you. It was weird with him too, because he still had like 2 more matches in that tournament to
Yeah,
complete. So I
was.
think
And being the professional he is, said he'd give it, and
said
he
he'd
did.
give it, and he did.
Good on him. So, and I don't think they would do that with Joe. Plus, he's already gone back and forth. What was it on Twitter? Who was it that tweeted at him? It was right after it.
Yeah,
CM Punk.
CM Punk,
who tweeted like the Rick James and the fuck your couch.
Yep.
Like, and then Joe said like they should have never gave us money or something was his response back.
I love it, but at the same time, fuck Punk. I don't want.
I fucking hate CM Punk, but yeah,
kind of an Ohno thing. I want to move on to now a little bit as we get closer to the end of the show here. But how do you think the Swann Omega match goes this Sunday at? Is it Retro? No, what is the name of it? God damn it!
Retribution.
Yeah, no, Retribution.
Since I don't have Duncan here to do it, Retribution.
I can't. Is that the name of the pay-per-view? I can't remember anymore.
I don't hear.
I
actually don't remember now because
Rebellion, or maybe it's Rebellion.
Rebellion, I think.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. I got it mixed up. But do you think they go full? Do you think they go full bore with it? Do you think Kenny takes it, or do you think there's just some chicanery which allows
Rebellion? Yeah,
Rebellion. Okay.
I mean,
it would be a bold move for Impact to do it. I can probably
Cotton, see if it pays off.
Yeah. Part of me thinks that it doesn't happen because everybody's so invested in this like Kenny the Collector thing, and it almost seems a little too obvious that maybe we have some sort of interference that enables Rich Swann to just still hold on to the belt. I'm not 100% that they go full bore yet with the Kenny Impact thing and the whole collector gimmick. I think it's going to be something that he brags about but never actually completes. Like I think there's more to it than we're privy to. That's just my thought.
I mean, they've tested the waters. It would be a big opening of, they've tested the waters. The question is, do you pull the trigger or not? This is literally the trigger, if not the V trigger, to do it.
Oh, well done there.
Like, but is it this pay-per-view or does it end up being like all in? Right? Does he go on his collection? Like, so I guess that you have to look at that broader storyline and the Kenny the Collector thing. I mean, he's talked about it, and I think that would work for his gimmick if he talks about it, but like doesn't actually do it, But I also think it does a great service to him, to AEW, and to professional wrestling and all of the other promotions if he actually does do it. And then you have fucking people from each one of those promotions come in and fucking collect their belt for their, you know what I'm saying?
Like, I like that because then you can bring them all back into AEW to get it back home.
And he can pull I have these.
Yep.
I get to choose when I rest. Like, that doesn't mean there's this constant crossover.
Sure.
It means I choose when there's a crossover, right? But I think it then puts those bigger stars over. And I feel like Kenny is the type of guy, just being Canadian and all, it's in our blood, that he wants to be the best, but he wants to be known more for not just
having the titles.
He wants to do something more and bigger in professional wrestling that is going to leave like some huge legacy that this happened. And I think
he wants to prove
has a vision for that. AEW has already done that, and changed things.
He wants to prove he is the best bout machine in the world that can go against literally anybody and pull out
and then
brilliant 5-star match.
Wrestling world over and say, I didn't just put this promotion over. I fucking put pro wrestling over.
I helped everyone in.
I helped everyone, and
Yeah.
I put pro wrestling. I
can
brought
see
it to
that.
this huge and like that's the part of me in my heart that I really want this to happen. And if it's going to happen, I feel like it's got to happen.
It's got to start soon. It's got to
You got to
soon.
start soon. You got to do it because you can't let this gimmick run forever. But at the same time, to your point, he could talk about it for a long time and still run this gimmick for a good long run.
Yeah.
And have some but like if there's always some fuckery, then
I think there has to be some, no matter who wins the match on Sunday, there has to be some form of fuckery. And with the Bucks turning heel just recently, realigning with Kenny, the Good Brothers, all that, Don Callis, what if the Bucks are the ones to go in, either cause a distraction or hit Rich Swann with, a super kick party? Something like that would lead Kenny to win.
Swann versus Kenny and the Good Brothers.
I don't think they go with that just yet because it's too soon with the Bucks.
I would watch that match.
I would watch the fuck out of it, but I don't think they go. I think that's too soon for that. But I can see them doing something in that regard simply because it would keep Impact from looking too weak and Rich Swann from looking too weak as well. And there's now a big reason why this guy from this other promotion has taken our belt. Yeah, because they're cheating assholes, and they came in and they stole it, basically. That works for me.
Works for me. I think, it's not AEW, but I think Kenny is going to want something. There's got to be something, I think, because he knows all eyes are on, and I think he's going to still in the back of his head think that fucking explosion didn't go off.
Yeah, you think he's still bothered about that?
I don't think he's bothered. I just think that, this is now the next pay-per-view. It's not an AEW pay-per-view. Yeah. It's the next one to actually, get people. We all stopped talking about it pretty fucking quickly because they handled it well.
Yep.
But, I don't know. I think it's going to. I think the match with Finn Juice and the Good Brothers is going to tell us a lot. If they have the titles and the Good Brothers and have them after that match, I think, you know what I'm saying? I don't think they don't have the titles and then Kenny doesn't have the title. I don't know if they keep the titles that Kenny doesn't have the title, but there could be some fuckery where he does steal it, and there's not, like you said, that's a great. I hadn't thought about. There's some fuckery where they steal it, and it's not a clean win.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be a clean win, no matter how you look at it. But the visual of the possibility of Kenny with both belts, the Bucks with the tag champs in AEW, and then the Good Brothers with the tag champ in Impact. There's a hell of a visual there that is quite impressive.
Super impressive, man. But
it is belt for belt.
Are we just such smarks that's we're I don't know. I don't get into I don't know what other people are talking about. This is just you and I talking here.
Yeah.
And
probably
but it's I'm sure they're talking about it, but it's. Man, I think it's you've now broken down so many things. You gotta, if you're gonna do it, you can't wait too much fucking
longer.
Gun shy.
No.
And again, I keep going now back to I just thought of this when we were talking, but I keep going back to the explosion. I don't think that's in the front of everyone's minds. I think it's in the back of their minds.
Yeah.
And I think it's we gotta create a fucking bigger moment and actually have the moment, right?
Yeah.
And that moment, it's going to be an Impact pay-per-view. The question is then, do you do it on the Impact pay-per-view? Because if you do it on the Impact pay-per-view, you now have to, or at least there's going to be the assumption that, now there's this crossover and, it's happening. I think you have to then make it very clear after that, no, it's cut off. You don't just constantly do this back and forth. I think it has to be what we were talking about earlier,
right.
Kenny being I choose. Right? Like, and like I
Do
say,
you have
the Good Brothers like can have a match on AEW for the belts or something, you know, or I say the Bucks get like I choose. Like I don't like I took this from your division.
It is a belt for belt match, right? It's not just for the Impact title.
Yeah, it's a title versus title match.
So there's no way in hell that, in my mind, that Rich Swann does not come out as the AEW champion. That's the one thing.
Yeah.
That
also,
isn't gonna happen.
Come on, champion. Is he a defending champion in Duncan? I mean, I know he's going. That we didn't.
We've never actually done an impact prediction.
I know.
So
I'm just talking
let
shit
him
because I'm
off.
bitter.
But that is true. That is true. We could have probably done that. We'll move on just very quickly as to what we do with a few different people, and I'll throw out a name, and I want to ask you like where you see them post-Mania, of course, moving forward with them, and who their first feud should be with moving on from WrestleMania.
Okay.
First one with that, Alexa Bliss. Does she get back in the ring even?
I think she gets back in the ring.
Do we put Alexa Bliss in a title picture on Raw? Like, I don't think they probably.
She doesn't. No, the title picture is not.
Much like they should have learned their lesson with the Fiend. Like
they I hope they did. That's exactly like. And with Lily, is that the name?
The puppet or whatever,
the doll, whatever it is,
something like that. Lily,
something like that.
I think that's right.
I just don't think you can keep having her just do like acting
vignettes,
kind of cinematic stuff. Like she has to do, and which
they have to get her back in the ring. They have to get her back in the ring at some point.
And she's cleared, right?
Yeah, she's cleared. I mean, she's a little injury prone, but she no slouch in the ring. She is,
but with what she's doing, you don't have to have her go full bore in her matches.
Week. Yeah.
You have this dark element now that you can put in there. So then who do you...
Some weird mid-card feud. I mean... I would have thrown, if she wasn't pregnant, I would have thrown the Lacey Evans thing in there as maybe
I would have thrown that in there. I don't think she needs a title, but I could...
I don't think that we need...
No, Rhea Ripley would fucking destroy her. And
yeah, we don't need that. I don't want... I feel like they might do this, but I'm not really for it just because we've seen so much of the two of them together. But maybe a Nikki Cross feud again.
Maybe that's where they start.
Maybe that's
where they're comfortable together.
Yeah.
And Nikki Cross can, like, they can feed her to Alexa.
That's true.
And Lily.
Yep.
And if it's Lily or Tilly or whatever the fuck it is.
I think it's Lily. I think you're right.
I'm going to call it Lily.
I think you're right.
Corrected.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good shout. I don't know what they do moving forward with it. But then that's the same with, in fact, the Fiend as well, who I'm throwing out there for you. Like, what do we do now? Now after this, another loss to Randy, we can't do Randy again. Like, that's got to be done, right? Like, it's
got to be done.
We got to be done.
It has to be done. It's over. It's got to be over. I mean, you don't do any title pictures.
They almost need to change him on brands again or something. Like, they need to almost send him back to SmackDown at this point just to get him away from Randy, or send Randy over to SmackDown just to kind of get.
And I read earlier. I actually didn't. Well, I read the highlights, so I don't actually know. But Randy got hurt on Raw.
Oh, I didn't. I was not aware of that.
Let's see. So suffered an injury with Riddle. Let's see, what are they saying? According to Brian Alvarez, Orton injured his shoulder during the match with Riddle. It's unclear at the time if this is a serious injury. Okay, it doesn't give me any information, but there's a lot of reports that he was in.
If Fiend was back on SmackDown, and they didn't want to maybe go with the obvious D-Bry Edge feud, I would love a D-Bry Fiend feud outside of the belt. Like, of course, based on their previous history with the Wyatt family and Debray and all that sort of stuff. I think you could make that work. At this point, though, it's very unclear to me if he's still on Raw, like what they would do with him. We've constantly been saying the guy doesn't really need to be chasing gold. He just needs to be doing things for who would be the biggest babyface on.
Yeah, and he can't
Raw.
go back into.
Oh, you could
hiding.
do well.
He can't go back into hiding.
No, actually, Fiend Drew would work.
That would work, and that was the thing. So I watched that 3-minute clip, or fast forwarded through most of it, like I said, to the TR Mace thing, and McIntyre is one of the people that I've been wondering, like, I don't want him to now, and I don't think he will get lost in the show, but I just the push is gone. I think he
had his time, and it's also devaluing Lashley now if you take it away from Lashley at Backlash.
I agree.
If they were going to do it, they had to do that at Mania, and I think you need to keep the belt on Lashley for a while. So Lashley, you can feed him some people from the upper mid card that are there that'll work to help stretch out pay-per-views and what have you for a while. But then what do you do with Drew? Drew and the Fiend would be nice because then you have an actual face that the Fiend is going up against, whereas Fiend is typically targeted heels.
Yeah.
And they've subsequently made this monster into a face by doing so. So it's either you turn Drew heel and have him against a face Fiend, which might happen, or you have the Fiend actually go, and I think the direction that was initially intended, and having him turn more heel against a face Drew. And then that keeps them both out of the title picture. It keeps them from both getting lost while preserving somewhat whatever's left of the aura of the Fiend.
How do you end that, though?
With Drew going over.
With
Drew. I mean, probably with Drew going over.
Right?
Unless they turn Lashley face over the course of time, and then you possibly set up, if you want to, not that they should, but maybe then have Fiend against a face Lashley if you go that direction, if you really want to go there. But realistically, the Fiend gets buried in everything now.
Yeah.
He will probably lose. He will still sell a shit ton of merch, and he doesn't probably care at all.
Could you bring Aleister Black back, who I'm not...
that's masturbatory, at this point.
Back in black, but also surprised he wasn't let go.
He did actually have I'm sure you saw the Instagram video that he posted.
Yeah.
He is teasing.
I did see that.
He is teasing a big return. I'll be honest, I don't remember what roster he's on anymore.
Me neither. I feel like I want to say SmackDown, but I feel like I'm picturing his entrance in Raw.
I can't remember. I honestly can't remember. So with that one, Fiend and Aleister works well, but what you do there, if you go that route, is you have Aleister 100% turn heel over a face Fiend.
What if you did? I'm gonna maybe hate myself for saying this. Fiend Braun. There is a little bit of history, right?
Yeah. Oh, no, there's a lot of history there.
But what if eventually to get him? Because the Fiend thing, I don't think can last forever. We've seen kind of both sides. So and I don't think you do it now. So I don't think it's Braun, but who better to then finally actually get a good booking and make him a monster, Braun, and he unmasks the Fiend and he brings him back to
old Bray. You could go that route, or if you wanted to, I think they probably should do this, but if you wanted to go back to kind of the previous feud with Shane McMahon and Braun, maybe the Fiend has an alignment with Shane where Shane is puppeteering. Yeah, I mean, it's stupid, but it's not outside the correct question.
No, it's not, especially with what they just did with Shane and Braun.
Yeah. We kind of talked about Drew. Biggie.
God, that's a tough one, man.
I think they're waiting to see on it as well. I think they're trying
I would like to see them put him in a main event title picture, like him and Lashley have a run, have a program together.
Wrong
I'd
roster.
like to see that. Oh yeah, that's true.
Wrong roster, but that might not
You're
be.
right.
But that not might be. I mean, they should be doing a draft sooner. They should be doing a draft in the near future, I would think. And if that's the case, yeah, you throw Big E over on Raw and you have Lashley Big E. I'm all for fucking that. Monster heel Lashley, monster face Big E.
Yeah.
That's Big E's big title win, because I do not see, if you do it on SmackDown, and a lot of people want the Big E Roman match, but they ain't taking that belt off Roman anytime soon. And I think then Big E just drifts back into the mid card. And, if he loses to Roman. So I just don't see that as a good idea. I like what you just said, though. I think that is actually probably it's a great direction to go in.
That would be. I think that would be a good direction. I don't know what else you do with Big E.
I got one other suggestion with Big E.
Okay, because I was gonna say, when you brought up Roman, I was gonna say, at least just passing note.
Mm-hmm.
When I was watching the segment with Paul Heyman, Jey Uso, and Roman on SmackDown on Friday, the promo they were doing in the back, and like there was Paul Heyman's promo a little bit before where he was there talking, and he's Paul Heyman, whatever, he's fucking being great.
He's always good.
But then Jey Uso was talking. Roman's in the middle, Paul Heyman's behind Roman, and Jey Uso was talking. I just kept seeing, like, the way I was watching his eyes, Paul Heyman's eyes at Jey, because he like stuttered or like stumbled over a word or two, and I was like, Paul Heyman is looking at him like, you motherfucker, I fucking wrote that shit, I taught you how to do it, I made you stare in the mirror a million fucking times, and you just did it on camera in front of everybody fucking live, and you fucked it up. It was just kind of funny. Sorry. But so Big E,
I had my other thing.
Yeah,
for him.
Who was your other one?
Regardless of roster, again, I've forgotten because he's not been on TV for so long. But I want to see a program with a heel, with a face Big E and a heel Keith Lee. Yeah. Those two against each other outside of a title picture.
Yep.
The two of them. Gives them something to do. It's a big upper mid card thing.
Program. Let them do the 3 matches on 3 pay-per-views over 3 months or whatever. Fucking let them. I love that.
That's what I would do with the two of them. I think that would be perfect. I also wouldn't mind an Aleister Black Big E program, because I think you've got that light in the dark with the two aesthetics.
I think you have that light in the dark. I wouldn't hate that.
I wouldn't hate it either. Chat room is saying who takes the belt from Roman. God. Well, it's not going to be for a long time, and that's too soon to call for me.
Kenny Omega,
right? Yeah, Kenny Omega.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
I mean, I would pay good money to see that one. In my weird, like, if I'm like a betting man today, I think Roman carries that belt through at least next WrestleMania, and with next WrestleMania probably being one day, they're gonna need a major marquee event.
The Rock,
and
he's not going to take it.
The Rock's not probably going to do it until the following year in Hollywood, which makes more sense. I think you bring back Brock, and I think Brock and Roman probably have it out, and I think that Heyman will be conflicted and somehow get in the way of that, and maybe, yes, it ends up being Brock taking the belt off Roman. That is what I would guess as of right now today, almost a year away from WrestleMania, but I'm not confident in it. In the slightest.
Yeah, they're gonna have Goldberg do it.
Oh God, no! Oh please no! Oh please no!
Yeah, no, I hope not. I mean, at that point, he is so dominant.
But you could build up a Keith Lee or a Big E by that point. You could build up these characters.
So you do, but you do have to give it the time that you're talking about. You do have to give it the time. It has to either be someone of the caliber, like Brock Lesnar, someone of his caliber, or it has to be someone who is groomed into that position.
He has to have Kofi Kingston vibes or Daniel Bryan vibes when they won their championships. The underdog story of look at how they've progressed over this past year or so, that they finally, oh my God, they're finally getting the shot. They're finally, like, it has to have that for it to work. Otherwise, it's going to be kind of a little bit more boring with Brock or someone of that nature that is that, that just kind of like headline name, because they're going to need that headline name in that stadium in Dallas, which is the largest stadium in North America, I want to say. So, they're going to need that, especially on a one-night event. Yeah, that would be my only guess at the moment. But yeah, he's not losing it anytime soon. Last one's I want to bring up, and I bring this up like sort of like hesitantly because I'm not a big fan of the way I kind of foresee this going down. But the two are intertwined at the moment. But what are we doing with both Charlotte and Rhea? And it scares me because obviously they're going in the direction of trying to. First off, I thought that we were going in the direction of heel Rhea. That seems to have shifted back to more of her being a baby face.
Yep.
And now we have this whole deal with Charlotte being put on suspension, kayfabe-wise.
Yeah, $100,000 fine
on
or
Raw for beating up Asuka and Rhea. Therefore, of course, we're leading to a match, probably the triple threat that they wanted to do at Mania with Asuka, Rhea, and Charlotte is the best guess. It would piss me. It would piss me off now at this point if Charlotte takes it from Rhea. Like that's something that we don't need. Hopefully, we can get some sort of a scenario within a triple threat context that, I mean, and even if you don't, just have Rhea pin Charlotte, please. Like, at this point, like, that's what they need to do. I'm just scared that they won't.
I'm scared that they won't either, especially with how Charlotte hasn't been on programming recently.
Yep.
She just came back. Yep. But they can't fuck this up. And they will. But they shouldn't, because they now have people who are dominant. They should at least if they're going to do that, they should have Rhea beat Charlotte, pin her, like you just said, establish her dominance, right? And then you can eventually, it doesn't have to be right away after that, but then you can eventually have Charlotte come back and take it.
Yeah, and she probably doesn't even take it from her. She probably takes it from like a called up Io Shirai or someone in that regard, like that takes it from Rhea. Like we shouldn't at all costs right now. Rhea and Charlotte needs to be like an ongoing feud that lasts ages, and if done right, won't need the belt. If they build Rhea up well enough, won't need the belt. Also, then keeping Charlotte away, because now she's got her foil, right? Like, she's got somebody that she can go up against that makes sense. Blood feud, in a sense, right? And then you don't have to have her in the Charlotte pitch or in the title picture. You don't have to. I mean, it should just be called the Charlotte picture. But then you don't have to. Then you don't. Rhea can come in and out of it, but have more important things to do. Meanwhile, vacating that spot for other, female superstars that are, in need of it. I mean, you've still got your Baileys, you still got your Sashas, you've still got your Asukas. None of them necessarily need that title right now. Rhea probably does more than anyone. But Rhea, if she can go on a 6-month run and beat Charlotte twice, that'll be fine.
Done.
That'll be fine. That'll be fine. You'll establish her, and then you can have her drop it to someone else. But yes, that is something that is concerning to me. Chat is asking, I believe it's Steve Stinson, why does Roman get to hold the belt so long? Because he's fucking awesome right now, and he is the best thing going in WWE main roster programming, without a shadow of a doubt. He looks the part. He is the part. It's what they've wanted to do with Roman for years and finally gotten there. And this will establish him as that Cena, Stone Cold, Rock-esque level superstar, which they have so desperately been trying to do.
Yep. And on top of that, you want him to break records as to he's held the belt longer than all these people and all that. Like, that just adds to the credentials. It's the best they've done with him. It's like the only thing they've seemingly done right. In my mind, in a long time, and
done more than all right. More
than all right. And it wasn't like okay, Kofi winning the title, and it was like we wanted him to like. They have been trying with Roman for so long that they finally found the storyline and the character and the persona that sticks.
Yep.
So they're going to hold on to that as long as they fucking can. And then when he drops that title, it is going to be one of the biggest money makers for them. All eyes on, huge crowd in front of a ton of people and with a million fucking eyes on it, like, and tens of millions of eyes watching live.
And I'll say this. I don't think he carries it. I think he might carry it through the next Mania. I don't think he carries it to the following Mania, where the rumored Rock match will happen. Because let's be real, Roman versus The Rock by that point doesn't need a title. And you're certainly not going to put the fucking belt on The Rock, are you? Like, at this point. So, and one would assume...
well, unless you're like... You're so good at booking that The Rock wins the title and then takes it to the White House and then challenges every other country for the fucking title.
I think that about ties up everything I wanted to discuss.
I had one thing
on the show. Sure,
to ask you about.
Hit me with it.
That's okay.
Hit me with it.
So much for a short show.
Right? Yeah. That's why I just looked at the time
wrestling.
And I'm like, God damn it! We were planning on doing like half an hour. Whatever. It's fine. We're here.
So now I have more things. But so did you watch the A&E?
The Stone Cold. I did.
What were your thoughts?
It was good. I learned a couple of things that I hadn't. I was surprised because most of these documentaries that the more mainstream media does, I'm like, I think I knew all that, but it was entertaining and what have you. No, I learned a few things. I'm struggling to remember what those few things were. A lot about his
like earlier days in wrestling and like them and seeing his brothers talk and things like that. I really enjoyed because Stone Cold. We all grew up on fucking Stone Cold, and like it was such a fucking game changer. But I was blown away at the end of it that I was like, there wasn't that much of like the meteoric, like they got to it, but like it was, and they paid it, but like I think they knew that like
we all know that type thing.
We know Stone Cold Steve, so like here's the background, and like I kind of like that. While I was watching it, I was like, when are they gonna get to it? And I was like, I could literally just go on the network. Oh shit, wait, there's not network. All right, hopefully I can go on Peacock and I can watch like the Austin fucking
the
like
Chronicles or
fucking,
whatever,
and it's all the best promos, and it's all the best matches in a row, which I have done when the network was there. I've done it with him, I've done it with The Rock, Taker, like I do it with Shawn Michaels, I do it with all the fucking classics. But regardless,
the collections, I think they're called,
collections or something, and they just go one into the other, and they do it chronologically, which was great. But I do know those things, and that's just me as a rabid wrestling fan.
I didn't know about the struggles with him and his daughters, and I didn't know that he tells the story about like how his wife was taking him over because he was on the road so much, taking him over to the UK, and they were living in London. And they have a conversation on the phone, and his little girl's like, who once had a Texas accent, now is speaking with an English accent, and it obviously like threw him for a loop and made him feel the how distant he was from his family, which is awful. Is that the kids he would have had with Deborah? I'm just trying to figure that out because they never said Deborah's name in the documentary. They just kept saying ex-wife. They kept like dancing around that. And I know there's maybe some domestic abuse stuff from back in that day too. So maybe that's one of the big reasons that they danced around that. But like overall it was very well done. I know there's like you said, some stuff from his early career, and
again, it wasn't what I expected because I expected them to be more full bore on that.
I did too.
But again, when I left, I was like, actually liked it because it wasn't like you just said shit that I think I already know, right? Or enjoy, and it gave me a little more background, which as a wrestling fan, as a Stone Cold fan, I like. So I'm interested to see how the rest of these go. I think they're more going to be on that same way because I think someone from 30 for 30, I think there's like a good group of like editors and producers and directors, and I think who put all these together. So I think it's going to be more kind of maybe all this background stuff that we didn't.
Yeah, I really, I had no appreciation for how quick it was from when he got fired from WCW to then going to ECW to then very quickly then making the jump from, because of the subsidized ECW, or it being subsidized by WWE or AF at the time, then being brought so very quickly into the WWF. I'm also going to state a probably pretty unpopular opinion. I think that the Ringmaster could have worked. And I don't think it was as bad as anybody, like, if given kind of like this ring general tough guy persona, we would have never got what we all love in Stone Cold, granted. But it wasn't the complete dog shits, is my point. Like there were little bits of the Ringmaster persona that I think could have worked. And that's just me. But
there are parts of it I see. I'm glad we got Stone Cold out of it.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, I will say this as an ending note. I think I've told you and Duncan, I may have mentioned it on air once or twice. I've at least mentioned in passing that where I live right now, currently block and a half or so, 2 blocks down, there is a bridge with all these murals and there's a huge park and everything. But there is this one homeless man, and he yells all the time. And I have actually like said to the point where I've seen like a police officer parked there, and I was like, hey, just real quick, like, how is this okay? Like that he is threatening people. He just threatened me with my life 3 times today.
Wow.
Like literally told me he would shoot me, stab me, cut my throat, like told me I'm going to rot in hell, all of this stuff. Like he yells at women.
Lovely
children.
Lovely guy.
But I haven't been home in a while, and I took my dog, and I'm like, oh, there he is, fucking this guy, right? But he was standing up on these stairs, and like it was like he was like performing a sermon. Like he had this book in front of him, and he's
a crazy person. He's a crazy
Oh yeah, totally. And he's like reading all this stuff, and he's like definitely talking about God, and like, you know, he's like, Everett, you're going to hell. You're going to be there for eternity. And I don't even know how long eternity is, but when I find you, you'll know that you got more to go, and blah blah. And I was like, he sounds like he's fucking cutting a wrestling promo.
He sounds like he's cutting a Stone Cold promo right now.
And then he said, and this fucking solidified the deal where I was almost like, dude, is this a gimmick? Because he was like, and that's the bottom line. And he's like, because I said so.
Oh, that's amazing.
And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? You just pulled a Stone Cold? Like I stopped and was just like, I looked around at him. I was like, what the fuck, man? This guy.
That's great.
Picked the wrong venue to do the gimmick. I'll tell you that much.
I guess so.
The gimmick, the venue of life is not the place to do that gimmick.
No. Get yourself.
But I thought that was funny, so I had to let you know.
No, that's great. That's a great way to end the show. I am dying to pee right now, so
yeah, me too.
I gotta wrap this up with a little outro music. But before we do that, we gotta do some plugs, of course. Check out OhnoWrestling.com. Find our Facebook group. You can do that by just searching for Ohno Wrestling, OHNO space wrestling. Join that Facebook group. There's a lot of good stuff in there. And if you're feeling generous, the Ohno family would invite you to become a Patreon over at patreon.com/ONRS. For as little as $1 or $2 a month, you can get extra content and really, really help us out with paying some bills. Don't forget to check out the Ohno Radio Show live on Thursdays at 8:30 p.m. at twitch.tv/ONRS Live. Of course, the same place where you're watching this if you're watching live right now. On Tuesday nights, you can find Ohno Wrestling at the same address. Again, twitch.tv/ONRS Live. Duncan would be mad if I didn't mention our Instagram at Ohno Wrestling. And Matthew, what do we say when we get out of here? Hope you have a too sweet week, everybody. And we'll see you next time.